Hi everyone, today let's talk about Nvidia's new chips, as well as AMD, then we'll look at the usual data, as well as my results for the day and my thoughts going into tomorrow's session. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Nvidia's new chips are designed to run AI at home as competition from Intel and AMD looms. It seems like every other day at this point that I'm hearing about a new chip, whether it's from AMD or Intel. But regardless, we still have Nvidia as the market leader continuing to head higher. They recently announced their 4080 Super with prices ranging between $600 and $1,000. And I keep hearing about how expensive Nvidia is, but how at the same time with their growth prospects, they're actually undervalued. And now because of that, they are a $1 trillion company. This has been one of the top performers, and we'll definitely take a look at it on the charts. But I just wanted to highlight that new chip and how they are starting to get a little bit more competition, but somehow seem to outperform every time. And then I wanted to mention AMD here as well, announcing their new RX 7600 XT chip, allowing for great gaming at under $350. And they really have been chipping away at Nvidia in terms of market share. This has been one of the fastest growing companies in the semiconductor space, and we've looked at it on the charts. It's been basically straight up over the last few months. We'll take a little bit closer look at it on the charts. Again, highlighting that the semiconductor space is moving very fast, not just with AI like we talked about. AMD does have a hand in AI as well, but I do want to take a closer look at these on the charts, and they are announcing new chips, which are new catalysts for these companies. Moving over to the usual data, fear and greed index actually ticked down today, which was interesting. NASDAQ was higher, but most of the other major indices were down. So slight tick down on fear and greed, everything else still in extreme greed in terms of the major indicators, and then put call ratio still in greed. Safe haven demand did step down to neutral, and then junk bond demand still in greed. So very little changes, still extended to the upside in my opinion. Let's go ahead and look at the charts. Yep, so we're still in this 75 to 85-ish range. That is just about the top of the markets. Extreme fear when you get into this 25 range. Typically a good area to be getting into markets for a bigger run. So still extended, kind of looks like a pullback. Generally, those are met by sellers. Moving over to seasonality, we are on trading day 6, so it makes sense. We did have a bounce on trading day 5, expected to be positive on trading day 6. Seems like we kind of pulled that forward onto 5, and then you can see it's a little bit of a roll-off into trading day 8, which does fit with the week prior to options expiration. Usually we see a little bit of volatility there, which I am still expecting, so we'll see how that plays out. So we did get the peak, looking for a little bit more pullback in trading days 7 and 8. Moving over to the economic calendar, European unemployment rate came in at 6.4, a little bit better than expectations. 3-year note, 4.1, pretty good. About 0.3 lower than the previous read, so that's good as well. And then looking at tomorrow's calendar, 10-year note auction is really the only thing I care about. Oil, fairly interesting just because I'm in energy right now. But don't forget, on Thursday, if you hold anything overnight on Wednesday, you're going to be affected by those CPI numbers on Thursday. So just keep that in mind as you look at your positions going into the end of Wednesday session. Moving over to Max Payne, still sitting this 468 to 470 range. Market was down about 1 point. Put wall now at 470. That moved up a little bit. We were watching about 467, I believe, yesterday. Stepped up to 470 here, and this call wall is actually smaller now, 476, and we are definitely within that range. Whether we're going to stay there for the end of the week, I think depends on the data that we see on Thursday and Friday. We also have earnings starting on Friday. Don't forget about that. But right now, 470 to 476 does make sense. Put call ratio did elevate to 1.45, so more puts coming into the market. Total options, 835,000. Not a huge number. But the big thing here is that we did see quite a few puts enter. Moving over to the charts, we did get a pretty big dip in the pre-market. Got all the way down to that hourly 21 EMA. You can see we did not close below it on any of these candles. Ended up rallying, and now it looks like a double top, which is not great, at 470, 478. Falling a little bit after hours. You have the 21 and VWAP sitting all at the same level. You can see that a little better here. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. 921 VWAP all sitting right in this 473.35 area. If we dip below that and take out the 144 and the 200, then you're looking all the way down to the 55 at 470.12. And to me, this does kind of look like a double top, like I mentioned. We talked about how this rally was super aggressive, and super aggressive rallies are typically counter trend. and then eventually the trend does take back over, in my opinion. So looking for that pullback, I would expect a bigger pullback tomorrow. Whether it makes a lower low from this previous low here on Monday, all the way down at 467, probably not. But I would expect a little bit of weakness in tomorrow's session. Just depends on the severity. And then looking at the daily chart, you had a full inside candle. So big gap down, rallied up, touched that same high, rejected a little bit. Momentum on the daily, still ticking towards bullish, which is good. RSI did slope down, so that's not great. So mixed signals at resistance, typically a little bit bearish in my opinion. Moving over to the NASDAQ, very different thesis here. We did get a higher high. We're holding above 405.50, wicked all the way up to 406.60 at one point. So that is very bullish. We did dip in the pre-market, did test the 21 EMA, but then that next rally was a higher high. So we have a low, higher high on the hourly charts. Everything looks good there. Want to see 405.50 hold. Still trading this to the bull side. Based on my positions yesterday, momentum ticking towards bullish, RSI ticking towards bullish. We're above all the EMAs and SMAs on the daily chart as well. Want to see that 9 EMA tick back towards bullish. Otherwise, we might see a cross there, which is not great. But price action is king, and it was a higher high. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. Inside candle on both of these, not great. So big gap downs, rallied up. Hit my 95.15 level, rejected from there a little bit, still bearish momentum. So we got that one step up and then continued back down here. So we're in consolidation between 191.89 and 195.15 here. Looking at the hourly chart, you can see dipped low, ended up holding that 55 EMA in a really broken fashion. So we did technically close below it on that 8 o'clock candle, and then we didn't get back above it until that 10 o'clock candle. So we're holding above it. 55 EMA, want to see that hold at 194.38 on the hourly chart. It is selling off of that 21 EMA. So clear consolidation, not great. It did hold a higher low from this previous one, but clearly a lower high from yesterday's high. So not great. Consolidation. Looking at the Dow, inside candle, look at that on the hourly chart. You can see same thesis, big gap down, touch the level, consolidated here. Still stuck between that 337.74 and 373.74 and 376.35. Moving over to copper versus gold, I did want to highlight this one here today. I talked about it in the Sunday video, how this is generally correlated with the S&Ps. And look at that massive bearish candle, 1.38% to the downside. Fully engulfed the previous one, made a much lower low. Could be a little bit of foreshadowing, just something to watch as an indicator. Moving over to AMD, I do talk about this one fairly consistently, but let's take a little bit closer look at it. You can see we've had a massive run, about 60% over the last couple of months. And you can see we dipped into the end of the year. First trading day of the year was pretty bad, down almost 6%, gap down and held. Then the next 4 days, super bullish, which was about an 11% run from there. And you can see we're now almost at a double top, almost at resistance, 151.18. Interesting there. Momentum ticking towards bullish. RSI looks more bullish. And giving that a little bit more structure here, you can see your trend resistance would be up around 154.26. And then you have those longer term trend lines here. You can see sitting just below that at 153.46. So overall, still looks like a good trend. This would have been obviously your better entry. I wasn't following it that closely, but this looks clean here to the upside. Couple of more points of potential, at least to the double top, if not a higher high on AMD. Moving over to Nike, I just wanted to follow up on this trade that we talked about yesterday, right at this trend line. So watching for 102.30. Didn't quite get down that far, so technically you would still be in the trade if you took it yesterday. If you took it today, you're looking at a better entry. Let's look at that on the hourly chart. So you can see we pulled back to that 55 EMA, similar to some of the other charts we've talked about. Holding that level, if it breaks down, watching for the trend like I talked about. 102.30 is that level. If that breaks, then you should be out of this trade. But really, you're looking at 30 cents of potential downside, looking for at least a bounce to 104.07. And then above that, you got the 144 EMA up at 105.37. That would give you a clear break above this previous high. So you'd have a low, higher low setup, break out above this previous high, and then you'd be looking for a test of that 144. Again, giving you a pretty good risk reward off of that level if it holds. Moving over to Apple and Tesla. Inside candle on Apple, just like the major indices, not great. Down 0.23, but did find some support. Let's go ahead and look at that a little closer. Again, falling in the pre-market, came down to that 55. Much cleaner hold, didn't quite touch it. Established a higher low here on that candle and then rallied up. It is up after hours, so looking at 186.81. And Apple looks a little bit cleaner to the upside. Nice to see that. That should be a little bit better for equities in the major indices. Tesla, on the other hand, not great here. Gap down, fell, touched the 55 on the daily chart, overthrew it to my level, so we did hit that price target, 232.57. The question is what happens now. So we hit the main level. That was what I was looking for. Almost hit the trend, and even a better day here would have been an overthrow to that 200. Get in all of those buyers that are looking for that test at 230.78. So it didn't do all of the things, but pretty good. Big overthrow, big bounce. Let's go ahead and look at that on the hourly. Not really any extra information. Big overthrow, touch, bounced solidly, consolidated. VWAP and the 9 EMAs have basically consolidated on price as well. Momentum ticking towards bullish. Overall, still a downtrend, but showing some signs of a bounce from a key level. Moving over to Amazon and Google. I feel like just the other day I was bagging on Amazon with this pretty massive down move. Fell about 6% within just a couple of days off a pretty stagnant consolidation at a key level. So broke down, took out the next one. Did not even find support here. Was really looking for a test of 143.26. Didn't quite get there either. Momentum ticking towards bullish. It's had quite the run from those lows, up about 4.5%. So hasn't regained all of it yet, but we're back above all the EMAs and SMAs on the daily chart. Similarly here on Alphabet, bigger move down, about 4.5% to VWAP. Held that level, gapped up, rallied, gapped down, then rallied again. Now you need to see this breakout, establish a higher low up at trend. That would be 146.68. But if we come up here to the level, 143.82, double top, run out of momentum, and then we roll back over, that's going to be quite bearish. Then you're going to be looking for a break of this midpoint and a move back down to these lower lows, potentially all the way down to that 130 area. And that could be quite bearish for Alphabet. But right now, everything is bullish, establishing higher lows, wanting to see that higher high up at trend. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Staples continues to do what we expected. Gap down, tested the 9 EMA. Didn't like that, but then we held that level, rallied up, broke this one, looking for a higher high. Everything looks clean there. See if we can give that just a little bit of structure. Your trend resistance would be at 73.52. Really looking for a test of 74. And then you got discretionaries, inside candle, weakness, coming off of that big move. Momentum, slight tick to bullish, but RSI breaking down. I would expect this to sell off here. So continuing to see that rotation into safer stocks. Moving over to oil and gas and energy. These were not great on the day. We did double bottom at this previous level here. So you can see the wicks. The wicks were higher slightly, touched this trend line, bounced from there. Similarly on the energy charts, let's go ahead and throw that on the 4-hour chart. You can see that trend line that we drew from this previous low to the low on Monday, touched that trend line again. It is holding there. So super important. Really, I should have been out here, so that's not great. Definitely should have been out at 83.55 once that broke again. Not great, so we're holding this low. If that breaks, I'm absolutely out, so that's sitting at 82.20. If that breaks, then you're really looking at 80.63 or another $2 of downside potential. So super important level. Could hold here. It has done it a couple times on both of these charts. And if it does, then you're looking back up to the trend resistance closer to $84, above that 84.50, which I do think is going to happen eventually, but you can be patient. If this breaks, wait for a better entry and then see what happens. Moving over to breadth on the 20 and the 50-day average, we did get a bearish day, but it did hold at the 144 and the 200 here on the 20-day breadth. And you can see that established a slightly higher low here. As long as this holds at the end of tomorrow's session, then we should be in good shape. Looking like a dip low, slight pullback, looking for a bit of a rally. We'll see what happens if this breaks below 51.75 tomorrow. That could be quite bearish. Still waiting on 50-day average breadth to do anything. Still chopping in the same zone we've been in. Very similar in terms of price action. Dipped low, did not get below the previous low. Still holding the same zone. If it breaks down below that 83 level, then we might be in for some more downside. But right now it's not doing it. I will say this RSI does look quite weak here, so that's interesting. Look at that RSI versus price action. We got the step up with yesterday's breadth, but then we got the big leg down. RSI looks very, very weak relative to where we have been. So similar price levels to where we have been recently, but RSI much lower at 54.64. So something to watch there. Could be a little bit of foreshadowing. And that is not the same as what we're seeing here on the 20-day with a dip low, rally up, pullback, much higher RSI. And it'll be interesting to see which one of those wins. Moving over to the dollar on the hourly and the daily. Dollar did chop higher throughout the day, slightly bullish. We're not above these previous highs or anything, so you can see still in this kind of consolidation between about 102.60 and 102.13 or so. Momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish. You want to see that break above the 50 line if it's going to go higher. Hasn't done it quite yet. Technically, it did it just barely at 50.07. But you want to see a little bit cleaner move, follow through in tomorrow's session. Again, looking for a test of that 102.89 level. See, we did it here on the jobs data and then went straight sideways. So not doing much yet. Momentum actually rolling over a little bit here on the hourly chart. So not much changed here for the dollar. Moving over to bonds, JNK and TLT. Interesting that they did move in opposite directions here. So JNK broke above the trend, broke above the SMA, confirming rally. Everything looks clean. Momentum rolling to the bull side. Up at 94.54, looking for a test of 94.82, and then test this previous high up around 95.61. And everything does look good on that. Whereas TLT gapped down, tested the 200, broke down. 96.50 is your next level of support. If that breaks, then you're looking for quite a big down move, potentially all the way down to trend at 94.64 or the 144 EMA at 94.22. So everything here does not look great on TLT, but really I wouldn't expect this to break in either direction until we get the CPI data on Thursday morning. So I'm really expecting consolidation until that CPI number. But the more interesting thing is that JNK is confirming rally. Moving over to volatility, both of these fell today. We talked about it yesterday. Potential that it could fall back to this 1230, 1240 area. Momentum rolling over. It did clearly break below the trend. Did wick it after gapping right to it and then broke down to my next support at 1275. So that's your next level. Then you got this shorter term level down here at that 1237 area. So RSI breaking down, everything looks weak here on volatility. Again, indicating we could see a little bit more bullishness tomorrow. Moving over to my accounts, I did not move any positions today. So saw the big dip in the morning, held high enough that I didn't adjust anything. So same exact positions, ended up netting about $100 on Theta, which is fine. NASDAQ was up slightly, IWM was down almost 1%, mitigated all those losses with that covered call position. The big loser on the day was the XLE. I'll be watching that one much closer tomorrow. It is at a very critical point. If that trend line breaks, then I'm going to be out of this position. There's not much you can do with it there. Then you just have to be patient, look for a better entry. Right now, still holding these same positions on the major indices. XLE, super critical going into tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Nvidia and AMD and all these new chips that they continue to come out with. Can these new devices catapult semis to new highs? Or are they too extended and too expensive? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck with your trading and have a great day.